My name is Joshua Langford. I'm 23 years old, born and raised in Charleston, South Carolina, a place where you're expected to sweat for every cent you earn and leave your dreams on the porch before sunrise. You see, where I'm from, ambition doesn't come with a corner office or flashy suits. It comes with scraped knuckles, broken backs, and dirt under your fingernails. You earn respect by how deep your tan lines are, not by what you code into a computer. My dad, Nathan Langford, is a man built from brick and mulch. For over 30 years, he ran a landscaping company that expanded from a beat-up Ford Ranger to a fleet of 20 green and yellow trucks you'd see buzzing around Charleston suburbs. Langford Landscaping. His pride, his life. But I wasn't built like him. While he taught me how to handle a weed trimmer before I hit puberty, I was more interested in the algorithms behind automated sprinkler systems than the sprinklers themselves. When I got accepted into the business school at the University of South Carolina, he didn't hug me, didn't even shake my hand. He handed me a crumpled $20 and said, "Don't spend it all on coffee." That was his version of support. He wasn't a cruel man, just old school, rigid. Anything outside his blueprint for life felt like a threat. A son who preferred coding over cutting grass? That felt like betrayal. So I left Charleston with something to prove. Betrayal College wasn't some party for me. I buried myself in data and market patterns. While other kids chased internships, I started chasing something abstract, an idea, a way to level the playing field for people who never stood a chance on Wall Street. Sophomore year, I started writing the first lines of code for a predictive investment algorithm. It didn't look like much at the time, just some charts, ugly interfaces, and red error messages. But something about it felt alive. The algorithm evolved. I'd skip meals, skip lectures, skip holidays. Sometimes I forgot what day it was. But I remembered every time my dad called my work fancy nonsense. His voice echoed in my head louder than any rejection email ever could. One night I overheard him on speakerphone during Thanksgiving while I was back home, talking to my uncle. "Josh, that boy'll be back mowing lawns come summer. Couldn't sell water in a desert." I didn't interrupt. I didn't argue. I just stood there, plate in hand, turkey going cold, eyes staring into the distance like they'd lock onto something bigger. That night I drove 6 hours back to my apartment. I never went home again. I dropped out midway through my junior year. My mother cried when I told her. My father? He just hung up. That first year outside school was the hardest. I was broke. I ate expired ramen, slept on a mattress on the floor, and kept warm by the glow of my laptop. Most days I'd wake up with my face pressed against a keyboard. My roommates called me a ghost, except for one, Thomas Blake. He was my freshman year roommate, a marketing major with zero interest in finance but infinite faith in me. "You're the smartest guy I know," he'd say, handing me coffee or dragging me outside once a week so I didn't forget how sunlight worked. "Just don't forget us when you're rich." I didn't have the heart to tell him how many times I nearly gave up, how many times I looked at my algorithm and thought, maybe Dad was right. But then I'd look at the wall next to my desk, plastered with rejection emails from investors, each one like a scar I refused to let heal. Then, one day, on my 23rd birthday no less, I got an email from Blackwater Capital. They weren't just any hedge fund. They were the hedge fund. Their portfolio made people nervous on Wall Street. The email was short. Interested in exclusive licensing? Estimated offer, 14 million. Let's talk. I reread it 17 times. I wasn't even sure it was real until I clicked the sender's LinkedIn profile and saw the verified badge. The first person I called was Thomas. He screamed like I just told him we won the lottery and found the cure for cancer at the same time. My mother was next. She cried again, but this time the tears sounded lighter, freer. I never called my dad. 3 days later, I signed contracts at a table in New York where the wine list came without prices and the waitstaff refilled your glass before you noticed it was empty. I shook hands with Patricia Donovan, the firm's CEO, who toasted to the future of finance. Everyone laughed and clinked glasses. I smiled politely, but inside I heard one thing. "Pathetic boy, you never had a head for success." Those were my father's words, and they haunted me. So I made a decision. I was going home. I didn't call ahead. I knew exactly when the Memorial Day barbecue would be held. My dad was predictable like that. Every year, same lawn, same crowd, same pride parade of landscaping clients, extended family, and employees. I walked into a Ferrari dealership the day after I returned from New York. I didn't buy it because I wanted it. I bought it because I knew he wouldn't be able to ignore it. When I pulled into the driveway, engine purring, every head turned. Conversation stopped like a record scratch. I parked the Ferrari beside my dad's battered Ford truck, the same one he'd driven since I was 10. The backyard fell into silence as I stepped out, dressed in jeans and a simple tee. He looked up from the grill, spatula frozen midair. "Sorry I'm late," I said. "Traffic from New York was brutal." He recovered with a practiced smile, one he used with clients. "Well, look who decided to grace us with his presence," he chuckled, slapping me on the back too hard. "Whose car did you borrow, son?" The crowd laughed. I pulled the title out of my back pocket and placed it in his hand. His eyes scanned it slowly. His smile faltered. "Must be nice," he muttered. "Rich, friends and all." "No friend," I said. "Just work and belief." For the rest of the afternoon, I tried to talk to him. Really talk. I tried to tell him about the deal, about what I'd built. He deflected. When I mentioned my algorithm, he asked if I noticed the neighbor's new patio. When his business partner congratulated me on the Wall Street Journal article, my father cut in, "Those journalists will write anything these days." When the last guest left, I found him in his office, head down in paperwork like always. "Dad," I said, "we need to talk." He didn't look up. "Nothing to talk about. You got lucky with some code. Don't think that makes you special. $14 million isn't luck." He looked up then, sharp eyes like chipped granite. "You know what built this family? Calluses, sweat, broken backs, not pressing buttons, not sitting around playing with numbers on a screen." He pointed at a faded photo of himself next to his first truck. "That's real work. That's real success. What I built is real too." "Is it?" he said, standing up now. "You'll blow through that money in a year, and those hedge fund sharks will spit you out. Then what?" he continued. "You'll come crawling back here? Wanting to mow lawns again?" I said nothing. He said enough for both of us. I left the office without another word. How to one of us the next morning, my cousin Evan sent me a text. "Uncle Nate's telling everyone you lied about the deal. Says the car's rented and the money's fake." Later that day, Patricia Donovan called. "Your father tried calling our office. Wanted details about your licensing agreement. We didn't give him any, obviously, but everything okay?" No, nothing was okay. He wasn't just doubting me anymore. He was trying to sabotage me. Sorry you, I went back to the family house. My father was out working. My mother let me in, her hands shaking as she poured coffee. "Mom, what's going on?" She hesitated, then whispered, "The business is failing." I blinked. "What?" "He remortgaged the house," she said. 3 years ago. Bought new trucks, expanded too fast. The new landscaping chains. He can't compete." "Why didn't he tell me?" "Pride," she said. "The same pride that won't let him celebrate your success. He thinks if he admits you're right, then he's wrong." I left my mother sitting in that kitchen, hands wrapped tightly around a coffee mug, like it was the last warm thing in her life. And maybe in a way it was. The walk to my car felt heavier than anything I'd felt in years. Not because of the heat, because of the truth. My father's world was crumbling, and he'd rather burn it down than admit it needed help. But now I understood something I hadn't before. This wasn't about me being right. This was about him not knowing who he was without being the provider, the man with dirt on his hands and bills in his drawer. And I was about to become the mirror he couldn't bear to look into. On my drive back to the hotel, the city buzzed with heat. Tourists walked downtown, laughing over ice cream cones, while I sat in the back of a black sedan, feeling like I was being suffocated by inheritance. Not money, but identity. That night, I opened my laptop and stared at the folder labeled Project Orion, the internal code name for my tech startup. But I didn't open it. Instead, I opened a new file. Title, Contingency Plan. Langford Transition. I wasn't just going to save my father's business. I was going to transform it, whether he wanted it or not. Either the next morning, I called my Uncle Frank, my father's younger brother and longtime business partner, the one person in the family who knew how to keep a secret and when not to. We met at a rundown bar in downtown Charleston, the kind of place where the booths were cracked leather and the jukebox still played Johnny Cash. Frank was already there, beer in hand, a tight crease on his brow. He told me not to meet with you, he said before I even sat down. And yet here you are. I'm here because I believe in what you're doing, Josh. I always have. Your dad just, he's stuck. I know, I said, and I'm not here to rub anything in. I'm here to ask, is there still anything worth saving? Frank didn't speak for a moment. Then he pulled out a crumpled ledger. Langford Landscaping had debts tied up in new equipment, vehicles, and commercial contracts they couldn't fulfill. He'd mortgaged the house, taken private loans, silent desperation wrapped in Southern pride. Then he said the one thing I wasn't ready to hear. He was planning to ask you for money. I laughed, not out of humor, but the sheer irony of it. The man who mocked my computer thing now wanted a bailout. I spent the rest of that week in stealth mode. Meetings, calls, documents, but nothing was said to my father. I ghosted his texts, ignored his voicemail. Let the silence stew. Meanwhile, I built a blueprint. First, I made a call to Patricia Donovan at Blackwater. I need you to dig into landscaping companies in Charleston. Give me a list of who's expanding, who's struggling, and who's ripe for acquisition. Within 24 hours, I had names, addresses, and company valuations. 3 major companies were gunning for Charleston's turf. One stood out, Greenscape Enterprises. They'd been trying to enter Charleston for years, but my father had always underbid and kept them out. They respected him, even feared him, but now they smelled blood in the water. I called Harold Jenkins, Greenscape's founder, and scheduled a meeting. Harold was a tall man with weathered skin and an oil-slick voice. He wore a polo shirt like a second skin and spoke in figures instead of feelings. "You're Nathan Langford's boy," he said, sipping sweet tea like it was whiskey. "Depends who you ask," I replied. We met at a marina outside Charleston, overlooking fishing boats and luxury yachts. He liked to show off power where it mattered. I didn't care. I pulled out a folder. Inside, a confidential proposal. Langford Landscaping could be acquired for $1.2 million, double what it was currently worth on paper. But here was the twist. All employees would keep their jobs. Their benefits would improve. My father would be retained on a 5-year contract as regional manager with performance-based bonuses and stock options. Frank would stay on as a consultant. Harold whistled. "You're offering me the company and you're doing all the dirty work convincing Nathan?" "No," I said. "I'm giving him a way out with dignity. You just need to let him take it." Rocket for no one. Next, I called a real estate agent and leased a 15,000 square foot warehouse in Charleston's old industrial district. High ceilings, exposed brick, perfect for tech startups and nostalgia in equal parts. This would become Horizon HQ, the new base for my company. I was bringing the future home. Then I called Evan, my cousin, the only one in the family who ever asked about my work. "Want to be COO?" He choked. "I just graduated." "So did I. You've got brains. You believe in this. That's all I need." 3 days passed. Still no response to my father's dinner invite. I knew he was stewing, pride boiling, questions forming. So I walked into his office unannounced. He was sitting behind a desk, trying to balance 2 invoices and a vendor contract. When he saw me, the tension snapped like a rubber band. "You've got some nerve showing up after standing me up." Dinner wasn't going to fix this. I slid the acquisition folder across the desk. "What's this? Your big investment in the business?" he mocked. "No, this is a lifeline. You're out of time. This saves the company, saves your employees, saves you." He opened it, read. His face hardened. "You went behind my back." "No, I went ahead of you." He stood up. "You arrogant little—" "I'm not here for revenge," I interrupted. "I'm here because you taught me how to work. I just applied it differently." He didn't respond. I pulled a small key from my jacket. Here, he stared at it. What's this? The Ferrari, it's yours. I don't want your pity. It's not pity, it's a signing bonus. Well, the next morning, my mother texted me. He drove the car to the store this morning. Didn't say a word. Just got in and went. The day after, Greenscape confirmed that my father had signed the agreement. The business was officially acquired. His role as regional manager was locked in. He didn't call me, didn't text, didn't even show up to the new office when I invited him. But I saw something shift in him. The silent weight of failure had lifted, and he hated that I was the one holding the lever. Acre 2 months later, we held the launch party for Horizon Analytics, a Charleston-based fintech startup built to bring Wall Street tools to Main Street people. The new headquarters gleamed with steel, glass, and purpose. Thomas Blake stood beside me as our new marketing director. Evan was thriving in his role as COO. My mom had finally quit teaching and planned to travel across Europe. And my father? He stood in the back, arms crossed, jaw tight. I invited him to the stage. Today, we're also announcing a local investment, $2 million into Greenscape Regional Holdings, including the former Langford Landscaping. Gasps, murmurs. We're launching a technology initiative to support traditional industries, and I'm proud to announce that Nathan Langford will head that initiative as Director of Traditional Industries. Applause erupted. I looked at him. He didn't smile, but he didn't leave. Iridimbum. Took the applause echoed through the new headquarters like a wave bouncing off steel beams and glass walls. But all I could focus on was my father, standing in the back, motionless. Director of Traditional Industries. It wasn't just a title, it was a lifeline. One that I hoped he'd grab onto before the past dragged him under again. I stepped off the stage. Cameras clicked. Thomas leaned over and whispered, "You think he's going to say anything?" I exhaled. Knowing him, probably not. But he did more than I expected. He approached, in front of journalists, investors, employees. He walked up to me, slow, steady, and extended his hand. "You planned this all along," he said, voice low. I nodded. "I planned to build something that matters." He looked around. "Your name's not on the building." "Neither was yours," I said, but everyone still knew who built it. For the first time since I was a child, I saw a glimmer. Not approval, not pride, but respect. It was enough. The next morning, he returned the Ferrari. Well, not exactly. He sold it, used the money to buy a brand new truck, the kind he used to only dream of. Custom wheels, matte gray finish, modern sensors. But when I checked our internal stock records, I saw something else. He'd used the leftover money to buy shares in Horizon Analytics. He'd bet on my company, no words exchanged, no, "I'm proud of you," just numbers on a ledger. But that was his language, and I understood it now. 6 months later, things had shifted. Horizon had doubled its headcount. We had partnerships across 3 states. The Traditional Industries program, spearheaded by my father, had helped over a dozen small service businesses digitize their back ends, improve client tracking, and even grow through data-driven bidding. He'd started holding workshops, hosting monthly meetings, plumbers, electricians, roofers, landscapers. All men like him, left behind by tech, suspicious of anything digital. But when he spoke, they listened. Because he wasn't just some outsider consultant, he was one of them. And now, he was the bridge between two worlds. Once a week we met for lunch, not out of obligation, but because, somewhere along the line, we'd found common ground. We talked like colleagues, co-conspirators even. They don't need handouts, he told me once, between bites of shrimp and grits. They need tools that make sense, not fancy dashboards or graphs, just stuff that works. And I listened, really listened, because he was right. He always had been, just not in the way he thought. Which we never sat down and talked about that night. The one with the Ferrari, the Wall Street Journal article, the text from Evan, the silence that followed. It just passed, like a storm that wrecked everything and then left behind clearer skies. But every now and then, I'd catch him staring at the office wall where our company values were printed. And at the bottom, in smaller print, a quote he helped shape: "Remember whose shoulders you stand on." A year after the Greenscape acquisition, I received a letter, not an email, a real paper envelope. My name written in neat cursive. Inside was an invitation. The Charleston Business Alliance was naming Horizon Analytics the company of the year. I was to give the keynote. It felt surreal, like a full circle moment, but it also made me pause. I thought back to every night I'd spent staring at code, every insult my father had tossed, every silence that echoed louder than words, and I knew what I had to say. The room was packed, 300 plus guests, city officials, investors, journalists, college students. I stood at the podium, heart steady. A few years ago, I was coding in a dark room, fueled by ramen and rejection emails. My father thought I was wasting my life, playing with numbers. And maybe, in some ways, I was. But what I didn't realize back then was that he wasn't afraid of failure. He was afraid of becoming irrelevant, of watching the world move forward without him. But here's what I've learned. The future isn't about leaving the past behind. It's about building a bridge wide enough for both to walk across. I didn't succeed in spite of my father. I succeeded because he taught me what real work looks like. And now, we're working side by side. 2 generations, 1 mission, to make sure no one gets left behind. The applause was thunderous, but all I cared about was the look on his face. He didn't clap. He just nodded, one builder to another. My mother called me from Italy last month. She and my dad had just finished a cooking class in Florence. "Can you believe he actually kneaded pasta dough?" She laughed. "Your father." I smiled, not because I needed his approval anymore, but because I knew we were building something beyond legacy. We were building continuity. Thomas was thriving as marketing director. Evan had grown into a quiet powerhouse as COO. We were hiring graduates from Charleston colleges, giving them a reason to stay home and build. Our company became a place where old world knowledge met new world tools. And it worked. Not because we got lucky, but because we stopped trying to outshine each other and started lighting the path forward together. I used to think revenge was proving my father wrong. That success would feel like a punchline delivered with a Ferrari engine. But I was wrong. Real victory is building something so big it can hold both your dreams and the dreams of those who doubted you. It's not about getting even. It's about getting wider, expanding until there's space for you and for them. Even if they can't say thank you, even if they never will. Because in the end, it's not what they say, it's what they show up for. And he showed up. Every week, every meeting, every lunch. In the end, we both won, just not in the way either of us expected.